Well, greetings, everyone, and welcome to a very special online event today. It's called Ancestral Healing with Irish Shamanism. Reconnect to your native lineage, land, and intuition through an Imram journey. My name is Stephen Knight. I'm the president and CEO of the Shift Network, and I'm really blessed to be here with you, getting to learn from a real pioneer in an important area of Irish shamanism. Her name is Lottie Moore. She's a lead trainer and founder of the Wild Soul Retreat Center and Wild Soul Tribe. And I have Irish ancestry myself, and I'm excited to explore into some of these deeper dimensions and root systems of ancestral healing that it holds. And if you are excited by what you hear today and want to go further into that deeper healing work, we have a brand new program with Lottie coming out called Ancestral Healing with the Land That Remembers. So we'll share more about that towards the end of the hour. So Lottie, with that said, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks so much for having me here, Stephen. I'm actually really excited to be able to share this space with you and share a little bit more about what I do and how I do it.
That's great. Well, so let's begin our journey here today with a little bit about your journey into Irish shamanism and why that became such an important path for you, and then dive into some of the key themes we're going to cover after that. But first, let's start with your journey.
Yeah, so for me, the land has always been really important to me. I've always felt well and relaxed when I've been out with the land. And through time, I kind of began to feel that was something more than just other people, hugging trees, that had a deeper connection with the land. And I don't know what you know about the Irish shamanism, the pre-Celtic history of Ireland, but the goddesses, the gods, the fair folk of Ireland live in the land. They went into the land when the Celts invaded. And so the land of Ireland is really rich with that history and that connection. And the more I kind of lent into that, the more I felt kind of intuitively connected with the land. So my intuition was really activated. And through time, I was doing more and more of my own kind of healing work out on the land rather
Mhm.
than, sitting at home or, in an office space or anything like that. I would go out into the land, into the fairy forts and everything else. And as I lent into that, it really kind of connected me into my own heritage. I have a mixed heritage, so dad Irish, mum English. I'm Irish myself now, but I grew up in London. And it really connected me into that memory of Ireland and what it is to be Irish.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Well, it's great that you have an identity that bridges the Irish and English as well. And so you mentioned fairy forts. I'm going to share a little bit of just about some of the lore around the beings of the sort of the forest and land that part of this.
Yeah, so in Ireland, it's believed that the fair folk, the goddesses and the gods you may have heard of, Bridget, Lou, that they live in the land. So what happened was when the Celts invaded, the Tuatha De Danann, the goddesses and the gods of Ireland didn't want to fight. They didn't want to destroy the land. And so they were tricked somewhat by the Celts, but basically they went to live within the land. Um, and that's why the land and many of the plants in Ireland, like the hawthorn, are really considered sacred spaces. And we have those beautiful Neolithic sites, the fairy forts, and so on. I'm really lucky that where I live in Ireland, within kind of 5 minutes is one of the oldest passage tombs. And they've just also found like even older fairy fort across the road from there. And yeah, they're magical spaces where we can really connect in with those stories of the goddesses and gods, but where they're really alive as well.
Hmm. So when we talk about Irish shamanism, it includes working with some of these different beings and fairies as well, it sounds like.
Yeah, definitely. And it's really important to remember that when we use the word fairy, when we're referring to Irish history, that we're not referring to like little Tinkerbell characters kind of flitting around or anything. The fair folk, the fae, are the goddesses, the gods. They're strong creatures that would go into battle with weapons, and so on, and not kind of like twinky little fairies that we might imagine, when we think of fairies nowadays. Yeah, definitely.
Hmm. Let's talk a little bit about ancestral healing and how you like to broaden the definition of ancestor. Let's start there in terms of like, what does it really mean to do ancestral healing from your perspective?
Yeah, Stephen, I think so many people's idea of ancestor is a family tree. What has come before them, and tracing that, and the kind of the male, the female, mother and paternal lines going backwards. But the reality is that the land is made up of the ancestors.
Hmm.
Without getting too gruesome about it, we go back to the land,
Mhm.
as do the animals and the plants and the birds and everything else. Go back to the land, and the land holds that memory. The way I really got into working with this as a healing modality, rather than just a kind of, I love having my feet on the land, um, it was 5 or 6 years ago now. A guy called Peter Sutcliffe died, which I don't know in the US if you would really know who Peter Sutcliffe was, if by that name.
No.
Uh, he was a serial killer here in the UK in the 70s and 80s, and sexual offender, very famous cases in Yorkshire here. And his first victim's son is actually a friend of mine, and we worked together. And when he died, when I was going out onto the land to walk and so on, I felt the land really pulling me in, drawing me in, and spaces on the land here really calling me into healing work to create healing for the spaces on the land where those murders had been had happened, and I could really feel that as I was healing and tying off those spaces in the lineage, as well as creating healing on the land and the land memory, healing was being created in the lineages going forward as well. So for my friend and for other people related to the women that had been killed, that healing was being poured into that space.
Hmm. That's powerful. And so I like this sense of like the land is sort of almost just a living repository of all of our ancestral lineages. Um,
Yeah.
and so, yeah, how does that shift you just sort of the practice of spirituality and shamanism that you're sort of like really including land and how you're doing ritual, that you're including sort of practices that reconnect you daily. So just share a little bit more about how that looks in terms of a reconnection practice too.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it has many different facets. I am probably best known for working with big fires. So for me, the fires, and in the Irish history, again, fire is a big thing for our practices, our spiritual practices, our main spiritual events through the year are always attached to big fires. So fire has become a big thing for me, rather than it being a campfire or something like that. It's become a real spiritual, ceremonial, ritualized way of connecting in with the land, connecting in with the ancestors. But also, just out walking on my own now, I would always carry a bag of herbs for healing work. I would always carry sugars for gifting to the fae folk as I'm working with the land, and just taking time to listen to the land, really letting myself intuitively sit with the land and see what it has to say to me, rather than me always going out and thinking about what can I get from this experience. It's also about, what can I give back?
I like that. So that mutual reciprocity with the land is a beautiful way to approach it.
Yeah.
You want to share about some of the other elements and how you can relate to them? I mean, specific things like soil, water, stones, like how they can become part of a richer spiritual practice.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, if we think of it of this way, the land is made up of the ancestors, of ourselves and the animals and the birds and everything else, then, each stone, each feather, each wave becomes a trusted ally, right? It becomes something that we can connect with and feel into both our own ancestry, but also the ancestry of that land. And I know so many people that, on their mantelpiece or something like this, they have little collections of stones that they've picked up. They're like, oh, that's a nice stone. And they kind of pick it up and take it home with them and everything. But when we start to think of that stone as holding the wisdom, and then we can start to think like, why did that stone call to that person? What was the attraction there? What is the pull to go deeper with the stones, or maybe with the water as well? Water again is seen in so many cultures as a spiritual conduit, right? I know, like in the Native American culture, in the Irish culture, and so on, water is a really profound carrier of spiritual wisdom
Hmm.
and healing. And so when we take time to actually connect in with that, like, what is that water telling us? What can we bring to that water? How can we work more deeply, rather than, it just being that, oh, look, there's a holy well in Ireland, or, in America, oh, the waters are flowing through the land. How can we connect in with healing what has been and what is yet to come by spending time with that water as well? um yeah, it once we start to lean into it, so many doors are opened for us.
Hmm. Let's talk a little bit about intuition and how that can really be strengthened by this relationship between ourselves and ancestors and the earth.
Yeah, for me it's been really profound. And I think intuition, if you think of it, it's like a muscle. It's like any other part of our body. The more we use it, the stronger it becomes, the more reliable it becomes. And so to go out onto the land and to listen to the land is a skill that we can learn. But it doesn't just come like this. We need to spend time strengthening that muscle, spend time, being proactive about how we listen to the land, how we connect in with that, and slowly starting to trust that that little voice that we hear is the land. And the more we trust it and the more we lean into that, the deeper we can go in that relationship. And of course, then that serves our intuition in all aspects of our life,
Mhm.
not just when we're out on the land, but maybe when we're with other people as well, working with other tools. To have a strengthened intuition enables us to really connect in all aspects.
So it's literally the practice ground from which we can really deepen our connection with all of life.
Yeah.
How does this fit with the there's kind of an animist philosophy that is underpinning this. Maybe share a little bit about that perspective of how, how you see spirit from this kind of more Irish shamanic lens and
Yeah.
informs us.
So animism, if you don't know what animism is, it's the belief really that every rock, every feather is living, is sentient, not just us as human, but the other animals, the creepy crawlies, everything has um that sentience, uh that right to be honored. And once we start to look at things and think, well, this isn't just a stone, this is a part of my history, this is a part of my ancestry, this is the ones that have walked the earth before me. There's the Native American term, aho matakiasan, all our relations. And the meaning behind that is that everything is a relation, everything is living. We are in relationship and have a duty of care, I guess, to all these things.
Hmm.
And it's the same very much in Ireland, with, for instance, the hawthorn. I don't know what you know about the hawthorn, but it's considered the sacred plant in Ireland to a
Hmm.
point where, not even the farmers who are not spiritual at all would dig out a hawthorn bush.
Hmm.
They have roads in Ireland that kind of go like this and then they go round the hawthorn and back round, because there is a belief that these are sentient plants that have an ability to really bless our lives, but also an ability to curse the hell out of somebody that digs them out. It's um, and this is what we see so much as well. So yeah, it's definitely that thing of like treating everything that we come across as a living, breathing being.
Hmm.
Start getting into conversation with a haw, a little fruit on a hawthorn.
Uh-huh.
Start getting into conversation with a stone you fancy the look of as you're walking down the road and see where that conversation takes you.
It's a great invitation. I want to sort of open to a little bit of dialogue around the Irish Imram as a concept first. I know we're going to guide us into practice and talk a little bit about why these Imrams are part of the lineage and what we can learn from them, and then tee up the actual practice.
Yeah, so Imram is the Irish word for voyage. So in Angailga, in the Irish version of Gaelic, Imram, Imrama as voyage, voyages. And it's kind of the Irish version of a shamanic journey, if you like. And it's believed to come from the fact that in days gone by, the ancestors would have stood on that west coast of Ireland and looked out over the Atlantic, and they believed they were at the end of the world.
Hmm.
They believed where they stood was the edge of the world. And yet they could see these kind of craggy outpoints out into the ocean. And so these are the islands. And so the shamanic Imram, the Irish Imram, is a voyage of discovery that would take out to an island. So in Irish shamanism, there's an island for so many things, and so like the island of the birds, Bridget's Island, and today we're going to go on an Imram to the island of the ancestors. But people would, in their mind's eye, like a shamanic journey, rather than that kind of more traditional shamanic journey that people might know, like Alice in Wonderland, where you go through the hole at the bottom of a tree or into a cave kind of idea. Rather than journeying in that way, we get in our boats and we go out to an island and visit that to connect with a trusted ally, a guide, um, a spirit guide of some form to bring us wisdom and guidance and feelings of acceptance. Yeah, so that is the basics of the Imram.
Yeah, I can really get the image of standing on the western shore and the craggy islands out there, and sort of how powerful that would be as a landscape to literally connect in with these ancestral lineages. So,
Yeah. That
so
wild Atlantic way on the west coast of Ireland, they have the wild Atlantic way. And, if you ever get a chance to travel down that, I'd really take that opportunity because it's wild. And when I travel it and I stand on that coast, I can really imagine that feeling because you feel like you're just going to be blown out to sea. It's truly wild. And to look out, you can really lean into the ruggedness of the people that would have stood there before us. Yeah, definitely.
hmm, beautiful. As you want to tee up the actual practice itself then and take us on a little guided journey?
Yeah, I'd love to. I'd really love to. So what would be great for everybody as you're listening in is just to kind of get yourself comfortable, close over the petals of your eyes, and just take a couple of deep breaths, bringing that breath in with every in-breath deep into your body. Down into your solar plexus. And down into your fingertips, really bringing that breath fully inside yourself. And feeling the support of wherever you are. Maybe you're in a chair, maybe you're on a bed or the sofa, maybe even on the floor. Just allowing yourself to feel fully supported. And in your mind's eye, just imagining tendrils going down from the back of your shoulders, down into the ground, from your buttocks and the backs of your heels, going down into the ground where you find a crystal, and just allowing those tendrils to wrap around that crystal, grounding you into your space in your room. And then when you're ready, in your mind's eye, just standing up and finding yourself in a safe space. It may be somewhere that you're familiar with, maybe somewhere out in nature. And as you scan the horizon, you see off in the distance a beach, a shore, and you make your way there, where you find a little boat waiting for you. It's a boat, it's the perfect size for you. And you climb in and push yourself out to the water. And taking your oar, you start to row yourself across the water out to an island. You can see it on the horizon. It feels familiar, even though you may never have been there before. And you row yourself out to this island steadily, surely, feeling safe. And when you get to the island, you pull your boat up onto the shore. And as you climb out of your boat, you feel your feet land on the land of your people. This is the place that your ancestors have known many times before. And as you walk through the trees, you notice a cliff in the distance, and on the cliff is a fire. And you slowly make your way up the cliff to join the others around the fire. And as you get there, you notice other people dancing around the fire. These are your people. This is your land. This is your dance. And as the music arises and the flames flow, so you join the dance. Dushagi. And Chinna, the fire, calls into your heart. These are your people. This is your land. This is your dance. And you dance the dance around the fire. Feeling the pull of the people that have been there before you. Knowing that these are trusted ancestors, only those that will keep you safe and have your best interests at heart will join you around the fire. And you will dance. You will dance the dance of your people, your tribe. Dance the dance of the fire. And China calls your heart, and you dance. You move to the sway and the beat of your people, feeling them around you, feeling your space, feeling the welcoming of only your people, your tribe can bring. This is your space, your land. Awaken, awaken to the calling of your people, your land, Dushaki. And then as the fire starts to die down and the people start to wander, you're left with just one or two ancestors around the fire. You feel their wisdom. You feel your sense of belonging as they take your hands. And you dance your dance around the fire for the final time. Embraced by the land, your people. Embraced by the sense of belonging that you have never experienced before. The knowing of where you sit within your ancestors. The knowing that they are there for you. And as the fire dies down still more, just yourself and one ancestor are left. You turn away from the fire, warming your backs to the flames, before the two of you wander down the cliff together once more. Back through the trees, back to your boat, your ancestor by your side, their commitment to you to stay by your side, trusted guide, with your best interests at heart. And so with this knowledge, you climb back into your boat and once again head out onto the water. Rowing steady and strong, holding in your heart the knowledge of that ancestor being with you wherever you go now, wherever you venture. You row yourself back to where you found your boat. And slowly and carefully bring yourself back up onto the shore and out of your boat, leaving it safely before you head back to your safe space in nature. And then when you're ready, once again feeling those tendrils coming down from your head and your shoulders and your bum, back down into the land, around that crystal, grounding you once again where you started. And once again, as you ground, allow yourself to feel held by wherever you are, maybe a chair, maybe the floor, and just bring your awareness back to what holds you, back to your body, back to your breath. And just slowly, I would say to everybody, opening your eyes, taking your time. And I know Stephen and I are going to keep chatting for a little while, but I'd really recommend, after you finish today's session, maybe grab a notebook or your favorite note-taking app or something and just make some notes about what you encountered on your IMRAM. You know,
Mm.
sometimes we can come into these experiences and really kind of rush through and, oh, that was brilliant and everything else. But make some notes on what you encountered and try and do that handwritten as well, because when we take time to connect with things and write with our hands, it really embeds in our memory in a different way. So I'd really recommend you kind of take 5 or 10 minutes when we finished to make some notes on what you
Mm.
experienced too.
That's really helpful advice. And then after we've taken notes with it, do you recommend continuing to work with it or take action on it, or what? How do you sort of
Yeah,
keep it moving?
definitely. I I'm going to be hosting a course with you guys in a few weeks' time, and in that we'll be really unpacking, revisiting that island, receiving gifts from the ancestor and everything, which would be great. But you know, for everybody, I would really recommend just, you know,
Hmm.
leaning into that connection that, you know, uh, as a trusted ally,
Mm.
as somebody that can guide us and support us in what we do,
Mm.
is a great way to think of an ancestral connection. And it might be for some people that a few surprises came up. You know, sometimes for people, it is a really obvious ancestor. You know, oh, that I met my grandmother, kind of idea. I've had people say in these Imran before, oh, I met my grandmother. But I also had, you know, a very white Irish woman say to me how she met with an African tribe and was dancing with an African tribe around the fire. So sometimes people are connecting in with land ancestors and the
Hmm.
ancestors of land. Maybe they've visited, maybe they've dreamed of this kind of idea. So, yeah, lean into those connections. It can be something really exciting that comes
Mm.
out of it all.
Hmm. Do you have any examples from your own life of Imran journeys that have turned into something really healing or magical over time?
Yeah, definitely for me, you know, working with some of the goddesses, and connecting with the goddesses from the Imram. So Bridget, for instance, the goddess of fire and water, you know, and some of my practices with working with fire have really been deepened through my work with Bridget, meeting her on an Imram, and you know, I came out onto the island, and as I climbed out of my boat, put my hands on the earth, and I kind of proclaimed Ishmisha Lottie. It's me, it's Lottie in, you know, in Irish, Ishmisha Lottie. And Bridget was there and she's like, I know, I've been waiting for you. Kind of idea. You know, and so yeah, really deepened my practice with working with some of the goddesses there. Yeah, definitely.
That's really cool. Well, I want to just open to some time to explore other dimensions of the Irish shamanism that we haven't gotten to explore yet that you were wanting to bring forward today. What else would you like to share with us?
I would love people to know that, you know, Irish shamanism is, or you know, the ancient Irish belief system is a whole belief system in its own right. You know, often Ireland gets kind of bundled in with the Celtic beliefs and everything else. And of course, Celtic belief systems are a really big part of Ireland. But before that, we had our own real history, and I feel that that's where the wild side of Ireland and that really deep connection comes in for us. And you know, these myths and legends come alive when
Hmm.
we start to look at those Neolithic teachings as pre-Celtic times in Ireland, as that ancient Irish history, um, that is often just bundled in with everything else. So
Hmm.
I'd love people to know that some of what I teach does come into the Celtic belief systems and everything else, but a lot of what I do is grounded in that pre-Celtic time,
Hmm.
where the goddesses and the gods did rule Ireland and walk that land. Um, and and also, you know what I'd love to share, Stephen, is the similarity with other belief systems that we see come up time and time again. There's a great author that's unfortunately just passed away, actually, Magan, who writes about the similarity of the Irish spiritual beliefs and how they cross over with other belief systems. And, I've been really fortunate. I've lived in Burkina Faso in West Africa. I've been invited into ceremonial practices with Native Americans, things like the sun dance and stuff like that. And what always blows me away is how much the same practices exist under different names. And they might be, slightly different in the way people meet with them, but it's the same practice again and again. Sometimes just simple things like walking clockwise around most of the time. Um, some of the herbs we work with, like tobacco, so many similarities in these cultures that are also so different. And I'd love to really encourage people to lean into that, whatever their own practice is. Maybe the ancient Irish practices call to them in some way. The diaspora for Ireland in America and Canada is huge. There's 3 times as many Irish people living outside Ireland because of their ancestors uh, emigrating and moving away. And I really believe Ireland is calling her people home. So I'd love to encourage people to look at their own spiritual practices that are maybe connected with their own land in more recent times, and learn how that brings them back to Ireland in some way.
Hmm. Yeah, there's a universality. Is like connecting with one root system opens up our connection to a lot of different root systems of culture and ancestry
Yeah.
consciousness. That's beautiful. Well, I think now would be a great time to talk more explicitly about your upcoming course, since it's a really unique way to dive into this terrain and literally terrain and to open up
Yeah.
an ancestral healing relationship with the land that remembers. So that's the name of the course, Ancestral Healing with the Land That Remembers. Reclaim Earth's wisdom and restore your lineage through Irish shamanism and guided Imram journeys. You can find it at the URL ancestorlandhealing.com, ancestorlandhealing.com. It's a 7-week journey. You don't have to have any background with Irish shamanism or shamanic practice in general. It's really just if you feel called to explore deeper into this and start to make it your own. So, Lottie, I'd love for you to share some of your intentions for what people will come away from this course with, and then we can go through the modules and give a preview of what's coming.
Yeah, Stephen, my number one intention is that people will not just sit online and learn more from me about working with the land, about land healing, about the differences between ancestors and lineage and things like that, but that people will go out and have confidence by the time the course has finished to start doing this stuff themselves, to really step into working with the land, listening to the land, creating healing through that process. The course is beautifully staged to go through week by week to bring people deeper into the relationship every week. If we're going to go through the modules in a minute, I'll be able to share a bit more about that. But it's really put together because I want to encourage people to learn and practice in between weeks and everything, so that by the end of the course, they're really filled with confidence to get out and do this stuff and to talk about what they're doing and know what they're talking about, and have a deeper understanding of how their relationship with the land impacts on all those things.
Great. So module one is the beginning. It starts, what are ancestors and how can they expand your perception of ancestral connection and healing?
Yeah. So, we've just had a little drip touch of that today, haven't we? Really going deeper into the idea that the ancestors are not just our family tree. They're not just the people from our mum and dad and grandparents, but that the land holds the ancestral memory, and that we can learn so much by leaning into that relationship. You know, uh, the thing about thinking of ancestors as a family tree is that, most people will have people that they don't like very much in their family, often quite recently, and I'm joking about that, but people that have done harm, whether that's done harm to themselves or done harm on an international basis, kind of idea. People will have people that they don't feel connected to. They don't want to feel connected to the behaviors of them. And so to expand our understanding of what ancestor is, so many of the people I work with are just really overjoyed, to be honest, to find this ancestral connection within the land, which takes family out of the equation.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll be looking at that more. Yeah.
That's great. Module 2 then goes into activating your intuition by strengthening the inner muscle of guidance.
Yeah. And I spoke about that a little bit earlier, but that one's really going to be jumping into some practical work of strengthening that muscle of intuition. So, as I said earlier, if we think of intuition like a muscle, it's like anything else. The more we exercise it, the more we use it, the more it serves us and the more dependable it becomes. And so in week 2, we're going to be really looking at some tools that most people will have in their houses already. They might even do some work with, things like oracle cards, um, and pendulums, for instance, as well as other tools. But looking at how we can really use these in a deeper way to strengthen that muscle of intuition. So really working with these with intention and connecting in a much deeper way. And what that will enable people to do is, number one, work with those tools in a way that is much more reliable. So rather than things happening to people, people can set an intention of their intuition supporting them. So rather than pulling a card and going, oh yeah, that's lovely, it's such and such, how do we create the intention to be connecting with these tools in a way that we recognize it as our intuition, and then going out onto the land and using that intuition, and once again leaning into what we've learned with learning, working with the tools when we're out on the land, so that our intuition, so that they can really rely on it, that what they're hearing from the land is what's coming through.
Module 3, what is lineage and how do we heal it? Transforming the past to support the future.
Yeah, because a lot of people think lineage is the same as ancestor, the same as ancestral, but it's not. It's only part of that makes up lineage, because lineage goes backwards, into the past, but it always also goes forward, into the future. And just as I was sharing, about that story of healing when Peter Sutcliffe died here in the UK, when we can create healing in the here and now of things that have happened previously in either our own ancestral line or for the ancestors of the land, then we can tie that off to create healing for going forward, for the people of that land, the people associated with maybe situations and things that have happened on that land. So when we lean into lineage in that way, we find our space within the lineage, and we're really able to claim that, so we can create healing going backwards but also going forwards.
Module 4, looking through an animism lens, deepening connection with all your relations.
Yeah, I love this one. It's kind of looking at how we deepen that relationship with the other than humans, in simple form. So how do we make friends with a rock? How do we work with plants? I shared a little bit about the hawthorn earlier. For me, I had a year where I worked with hawthorn every day. So I would sit with hawthorn every day. I would use a hawthorn tincture or make hawthorn tea. Some nights I was sneaking out and sleeping with the hawthorn. Um, I won't be making people go out and sleep with plants during the course, um, but just kind of really deepening that relationship with the other than humans, and ways that we can do that.
Module 5, working with the elements, using fire and water as allies in land work.
Yeah, I've already said that fire is a big part of my life, and what I do. And for the goddess Bridget, I don't know what you know of her, but she's the goddess of both fire and water.
Hmm.
So in that week, we're going to be looking at both of those two elements, and learning ways that other cultures work with fire and with water, to really reconnect with the land and call in the healing.
Module 6, it's all one land, healing across distances and cultures.
Yeah, a lot of people will feel called to a specific culture that is not their own, or maybe not their own in recent history. Just as I showed with that woman about the African dancers around the fire, um, or with Ireland. I really believe that Ireland is calling her people home right now. Uh, a lot of people feel a pull to the Native American culture as well, and learning more about that. And of course, we need to be really careful about cultural appropriation, and I unpack some of that during the module as well. But we're really exploring how we're all on one piece of land. The land goes over the mountains and under the seas, but it's all one piece of land, and how we can feel the pull of land maybe far away from us, but also then how we can step into distance healing, just as I did for, when that serial killer died. I was doing healing work on my land to create healing in the land where the victims had passed over.
Hmm. That's very powerful. Finally, module 7 is let the healing begin, integrating land and lineage into your life.
Yeah, I want to encourage people to not just come on a Zoom call with me. I want to encourage them to get out and do the work, and play with this stuff and practice this stuff, and build it into their lives in a way that feels comfortable and doable for them. And so in that final module, it's just going to be encouragement and ideas of ways that they can get out and actually start doing this stuff.
What a beautiful program. And it's a really unique opportunity to dive deeper into this lineage, into the land, into Irish shamanism, and really come out more integrated, balanced, and whole. So, again, the whole program is laid out in detail at ancestorlandhealing.com, ancestorlandhealing.com. So, in addition to the 7 90-minute live sessions with Lottie, which are going to include interactive time practices as well as time to ask your questions live, you also get recordings of every session, both video and audio, as well as word for word transcripts to work with, study, and highlight. There are weekly exercises to go deeper and with inquiry, and there's community group to support you and deepen your experience, as well as small group time to connect with other participants. On the page, you also see there's a number of extra bonuses that have been added to this program to enhance your journey. There's a guided audio meditation from Lottie called Lineage Visualization and Connection. Lottie shared a little bit about lineage and a deeper perspective on that. And what's are you teaching there or doing with the guided audio meditation?
Yeah, that's a beautiful visualization. Even if I do say so myself, it's really helping people to ground into their space in their lineage. So with the lineage going backwards, first of all, connecting in with that, um, and then connecting in with the lineage going forward. So working with the two chakra points, the third eye chakra and the heart chakra, to connect in with what has happened before with the lineage going backwards, and then connecting in also with their lineage going forwards, before they really ground themselves in their space in their lineage, so really claim their place, so that they can feel the support and everything else of those before them and those yet to come. So it's a really beautiful practice, actually. And it's all guided, so people don't need any experience previously to be able to just connect in with that and enjoy it. And I think it's about 20 minutes long. So it's great for people, as a one-off or something really I'd recommend that people revisit a few times just to really ground themselves fully in that place in their own lineage.
Hmm. It's a great extra bonus. There's a second bonus, a collection of articles called Working with the Elements, Spiritual Practices with Fire and Water, a PDF guide.
Yeah, I really wanted to encourage people to look um, at different ways of connecting with the elements. So I have looked at in those articles, particularly connection with fire and water, because that's something we're going to be visiting at a deeper level in the course. But it's articles to encourage people. So some article about the Irish waters and the wells and the sacred waters in Ireland, and another Irish one as well about the fire festivals and how important fire is. Uh, but also the Algonquin water song. So that's the native Canadian uh, ritual for connecting with the water, and also looking at the shamanic firework that they do in Africa, in southern Africa. So just looking at different cultures and different ways of working with those two elements.
That's a great extra bonus. And then there's one final bonus, which is a special bonus you get if you sign up by midnight tonight Pacific time. There's a video teaching from Lottie called Imram to the Island of the Ancestors. So similar theme of today, but we want to share a little bit more about the whole video teaching on that.
Yeah, it is a similar theme today, but it's longer. It's unpacked. It's giving people a real chance to go deeper into that connection with the ancestors, deeper into that time around the fire. A great way to start with the Imram. Again, it's fully guided. So if people have no experience of the Imram, of the voyage of discovery, I guide them through the whole thing. So it just gives them a really good opportunity to go deeper. And, just like the whole course will be really is like, building on itself each week to go deeper and deeper in that relationship with the ancestors and with their own ancestors, the ancestors of the land. That Imram is a real opportunity to start strong, I would say, to jump into the course while that bonus is available would be great, because it's going to really enable people to kind of come out the blocks running, really connected in and really ready to go.
Hmm. What a great extra bonus and a great extra reason to sign up right away, because you get that when you sign up by midnight. So it's clearly going to be a really beautiful program, a lot of depth and wisdom and introduction and understanding of a whole new lineage for a lot of people. So we've kept the investment for this program very accessible. It's just three payments of $128, or you can save 10% when you pay in full with one payment of $349. The course is going to start December 4th and run Thursdays at 9 a.m. Pacific, noon Eastern. But even if you can't make the live times, you can still get the full value with the recordings, the transcripts, and the community as well. There's some beautiful testimonials about Lottie's ability to hold sacred space and help support people in their journey. So you're in really good hands, and you're going to be introduced to some powerful teachings and go deep into your own journey into ancestry, land, and healing. So again, the whole program is laid out in detail at ancestorlandhealing.com, and you get that special Imram to the Island of the Ancestors bonus when you sign up by midnight tonight. So, Lottie, it's been really great to connect with you. Thank you for this time and your wisdom. Anything that's still on your heart you want to share with folks who are considering doing the course with you?
I would just encourage people to lean in. A lot of the people I work with this type of work, they've been out on the land and they've been having experiences. And for myself as well, one of the reasons I teach this stuff is because when I started having experiences out on the land, there was nobody teaching this stuff. Um, so I'd really like to encourage people to explore that, rather than thinking, oh, I just muddle through my own way, or I just pretend this isn't happening. Lean into the course, join us, join other people through that experience, and really step into their own authority for
Mm,
working with the land and the ancestors. Yeah.
nice. Well, it's a powerful call, and thank you, Lottie, for this time together. Thank you all for joining. We're looking forward to this upcoming program. It is again called Ancestral Healing with the Land That Remembers, Reclaim Earth's Wisdom and Restore Your Lineage through Irish Shamanism and Guided Imram Journeys. And you can find it at the URL ancestorlandhealing.com, ancestorlandhealing.com, and you'll get that special bonus of the Imram uh, to the island of the ancestors when you sign up by midnight tonight. So thank you so much, Lottie, and thank you all for joining. Many blessings.
Thanks, Stephen. Bye now.